Prego Wars is my first very own video game where you shoot your friends with ridiculous weapons, hit them with ridiculous abilities, enable and even stack match mutators, and then create your own maps in multiplayer to then repeat everything and shoot them again. If that sounds like a lot, yep. If you don't know who I am, my name is Luke and I'm a professional masochist and a developer on the side. And in the spirit of that, I set out to complete my video game in 6 to 12 months. We are now officially 1 month into development. How did it go? And that's where the fun stops. If I knew what I would find in that code 1 month ago when I opened it, yeah, I rewrote almost all the game code. Most of this was written 4 years ago, back when I was treating this game like a 1 month game jam project. And woo-wee, yeah, it shows. I was the freaking code janitor this month. That was my job title. And it was not fun. Just a little bit, it was a little fun. Just listen to this. The character system, remade. The mutators and debuff systems, remade. The map editor tools, remade. The entire main class that manages the entire game. Take a guess. You're right, it's remade. The worst part about all this rewriting is that the end goal of all of these things is to be in the exact same place as we were before. No new features, no new content, none of that, just to be exactly in the same spot, but with better internals. So why would you go through all of that trouble just to make the gameplay exactly the same as before? Well, let me tell you. Firstly, as it turns out, badly designed code has bugs. Well-designed code has less bugs. I fixed a whole pile of bugs by accident just by rewriting everything properly. Think of designing code like designing a control panel covered in all kinds of various buttons and knobs and dials. They're all high-tech, lighting up and flashing and stuff. And every single time that you declare a variable or a function as public using that public keyword, you're adding a new thing to that control panel. This control panel is called your API, or your application programming interface. And whenever you're making one, a great way to think about it is that you're just gonna hand that control panel to a toddler. He has no idea what he's doing. He's just gonna push stuff and twist stuff and do whatever you have on that panel. And when you think about it with that perspective, making something public is kind of a big commitment. You start to have to think about what happens when your variables and functions are, we'll call it misused. Even though you're likely not a toddler, and if you are, there's nothing wrong with that, I guess. But we're all still bound to make mistakes, and good APIs just make it harder to make mistakes. If you make that control panel so you can do whatever the heck you want on it and your game's not gonna break, then that's phenomenal. You're never gonna have a bug in your life. You need to purposefully exclude things you don't want on that panel or else bad things are gonna happen. But one of the other reasons that I did the redesign, and the one I'm actually most excited about, is modability. Almost all the content in the game used to be literally hard-coded. Talking the characters, the mutators, the debuffs, the map editor tools, you name it, it was all hard-coded. Now, all of this stuff is done through loaders and registries now, so all modders have to do is just breathe and all the content will be there in the game. On top of that, I also moved the game over to the Mono compiler with Unity so that now all of the code is open and accessible for everybody to take a look at and mod. I'm also going to be shipping all of the internal documentation, and I'm also going to be writing my own external documentation to tell people how to make mods for the game and how to add content. Prego Wars is nearly a perfect first-person shooter game engine, and I just want to share that with everybody. Y'all are going to love it. Now, you guys have probably already figured this out, but there is one little tiny downside to doing a redesign, and that's that it takes literally forever. You gotta understand all the old code, then you gotta make a new file, and then you gotta figure out what to keep and what to strip away, and then you gotta fill in all the parts that are missing after that. I would consider myself a pretty experienced object-oriented programmer, but I got a hell of a nice mental workout this month, and I did not ask for that. However, that doesn't mean that all that I did was code last month. One thing that I did was I learned to rig up all of our character models and actually install like inverse kinematics and stuff. I've been really terrified of trying that since like last year, and I've been putting it off, but I sucked it up and I tried it, and it really wasn't that bad. I then learned how to animate actions in Blender and then export those out in the FBX file to Unity. I now have a way to take Blender animations and move them over to Unity, and that's just so much better than what I was doing before. And now I can animate my characters in an actually decent program. Unfortunately though, that does not make me any better at animating. So while I was working on all of that and importing all of the character models into Unity, Unity's material system decided to ruin my weekend. It turns out the roughness is driven by the alpha channel of the color. That means as your texture gets more transparent, your texture gets more rough. Like, huh? Unfortunately, I didn't know this, so all of my textures for the characters have like, you know, a roughness map. So I got to spend an entire night in Fusion hand packing all the materials for all the characters into this ridiculously cursed format. I mean, they look great now, so I'm not like majorly complaining, but that is a workflow that I would forget if I could. I'm probably gonna have to do it again too, so I might release a tutorial or something on how to do that. On the side, I made a new user interface for the lobby system just for testing. It's not functional yet, but everything's wired up internally, and I'm hoping to do multiplayer testing first thing this month. I'm so close to having it working, I can just smell it, you know? And somewhere along the line of this month, I forgot when, but I upgraded upgraded Unity from the old like 2022 version all the way up to 6.3. And in doing that, I thought there was gonna be tons of problems that popped up, but you know what? It actually was really smooth. There were a few things that I had to fix, and the biggest thing was I had to upgrade to the new Unity input system. If you've ever done any research into what that is, people will usually tell you that it's a really hard to learn thing that's like way worse than the old system. I wouldn't say it's worse. It's actually pretty nice to use, but it does have a little bit more learning curve than the old one did. But overall, it's gonna make input glyphs and rebinding just so much easier in the end, and it's gonna be worth it. And plus, I'm on a new Unity version now, which is just gonna make things easier in the future. Even though it doesn't really look like it, I moved mountains last month, and I am so freaking excited for what comes next. For this month, I wanna get multiplayer testing going. I wanna start importing all the characters and getting them started animating and working with all that code. We're gonna finalize everybody's kits because we're making a couple changes there to make it a little bit more fun for gameplay. And then on top of that, whatever else I can physically cram into my time, we'll find out. This last month has literally been like the longest feeling month of my entire life, but you know what? Burnout somehow hasn't set in, and I'm still going full speed ahead to make my dream game happen, and we're on track, so yeah. If you want to help out, you can wishlist Prego Wars on Steam. It's free, by the way. And join the Discord server to hang out. I like to post like granular progress updates in some of the channels in there, so if you're interested, that's the place to get the live news. All right, love you guys. Peace. All right, there we go. That's a wrap.